Dobro, to je to. Okay, hello all of you. Welcome to the sixth panel of Conscience Revolution, the platform that Exit has launched this June. All of you know that Conscience Revolution is a platform that brings together all the leaders, speakers, thinkers, scientists, people from business, from all over the world and from different backgrounds with rich careers in business and entrepreneurs. I'm really honored to be part of this panel because we have a really, really important and inspiring discussion this evening. It is about the conscience business, or should I say conscience in business, because my three guests this evening are going to speak about what conscience business is for them, what is their experience, and maybe they will give me some examples to what conscious business can bring to environment, society, how can it change the perspective we are living in, and probably what can we do to improve our lives at this moment and in the future that is near to us, and probably something that's going to happen in some further future. So this evening with me, it's evening time for us. So with me today are the Mohammed Ismaeel, Senior Vice President of Visa Company, Miša Lukić, Founder and Chief Business Designer at New STARTEGY, and Dušan Kovačević, Founder and CEO of Exit Festival. I won't read your biographies because I'm really hoping to have really interesting discussion and to leave you more time to talk about conscience in business. And at the beginning, I'm going to ask you all one question, the same. What is conscious business to you? And how do you expect that conscious business can improve environment and help society to maybe be better, to improve it, to get some answers in the future? So, Mr. Mohammed, you can start.
Thank you, Dana. It can mean a lot of things, I guess. I think for me personally, when we talk about conscious business and conscientious business, it's really the role that organizations, businesses can play, should play, and in many cases now, thankfully, do play in the betterment of the society that they work in. We talk about it, though, from a business perspective and the role of industry, but reality is, everyone who is on this call, everyone who is listening, all of us as presenters, every one of us has a role to play. It's if you look at the two sides of business, there is the supply side, and there is the demand side, all right? Without one, the other doesn't exist. And I think we shouldn't constantly push this over to the roles and responsibilities of a business. We as individuals have a distinct role to play. And as consumers, we can influence it. And that's incredibly important. I think that, the days where business purely for profit is something that's changing. I'm not going to say that it's a thing of the past, clearly not. Businesses will still come into business for profit and they'll succeed. I do question the length in which they will succeed moving forward if they do not start building that conscience. And there's a reason for that. For me personally, it's the shift that organizations and businesses have moved into when it comes to this area, being conscious about what they're doing in the societies that they live, is actually being dictated by the change that's happening in the consumer face, right? If you think about, we probably spent the last 20 years truly trying to understand millennials. That consumer face is now changing, and there is this new generation of consumer that's coming in. Gen Z, Gen Z, Centennials, depends on where you are, what you call them. But they come in with a very, very different value system. And that value system is actually dictating in many, many ways what they're expecting to get from the businesses that they engage with. You give me maybe a minute, I'll just say something a little bit about Gen Z, because I think it will help us understand why it's so important with them. Gen Z is people aged 6 to 24, roughly. They represent 35% of the world's population, 2.5 billion people. Now, I think a lot of businesses have thought of them as, well, they're still young. They're not really relevant to me yet. That's not actually true. 700 million of them are in the working force right now, with a combined spending power of $200 billion annually. And the other piece that you should think about, this generation, unlike any other generation before, is incredibly connected, right? And you know, anyone who's a parent here and who has a child in that age group will know that when was the last time you actually made a decision by yourself without being influenced by that child? That there is a difference in this generation, and that value system that they bring, they're expecting us as businesses to understand them and respond to them. A business which has the same values as them is going to get their business moving forward. And the extent to which this is the case, I saw a presentation actually a couple of days ago, 74% of both Gen Z and millennials say that they expect, it's an expectation now, they expect the companies that they work for to stand for the same values that they do. It's not an ask, they're expecting it to happen. But they're also saying 50% of them will say that if you don't have the same values as me, they will move away. And those values are enabling economies, society, the environment to progress. So they're expecting our businesses to get into that space. Otherwise, they'll move away. But the other really important thing is, I think people often think if you want to do the right thing, it's going to be at the expense of your profit. That's not the case. This is a generation that has loudly and clearly said that I will pay for value. If you as an organization, and a third of them have said this, a third will say that if you have the same values as me, I am willing to pay a premium for what you deliver and what you serve. So they're not in conflict with each other. They actually support each other. So by doing the right thing in the economies that you're in, you actually have the ability to drive better business.
So, Miša?
Yes, thanks, Mohammed. For me, conscious business is a business that improves people's lives. Conscious business is a business that creates value for all stakeholders, not only shareholders, not only customers, but employees, communities, planet, species, ecosystem. And one of the biggest problem of today, current business, is that companies are, I can say, not conscious enough, but I think one of the biggest problem is that they are one stakeholder centric, like shareholder centric, or even customer centric. And a lot of companies, and I hope I will not really say something what people don't want to hear, but a lot of companies insist that they are customer centric. But if you are customer centric, and there are a couple of companies in the world that they said they're obsessed by customers, and I think they are not really good with their employees, they are not paying some taxes, avoiding things, and they're not conscious companies. This customer obsession, it's a hidden shareholder centric obsession. And even some companies try to claim that are employee centric. It's not good. If you are one stakeholder centric, you are not conscious. Like in a family, if you are children centric, it's not good for your family. You know, you are spoiled the kids, and we are spoiling the customers, spoiling the shareholders, etc. But in conscious business has a big see the bigger picture. Believe that everything is connected. You know, when your employees are not satisfied, when community, when planet, that in the future your business and the whole ecosystem will suffer. Even to show, I have some data in front of me to show how at the moment our business is not conscious, and I call this business erectus. Because only growth, it's something what is in their mind. And I have some data which says if our purpose of conscious business to improve lives and create value for our stakeholders. Let's see what our stakeholders are we really improving their life. One data according to Gallup that only 15 to 17% of employees are fully engaged in the workplace. 85% are not. For sure, we are not increasing their value. Customers. This is only just 8% of consumers consider themselves to be firmly committed loyalists and they trust brands, which means we are not really having trust with our customers. Management, 77% of managers, they had burnout in the last 3 years. Of course, we are not improving lives with the current business with the managers. Shareholders, we think that shareholders are satisfied. Not really. Like what we have as a data that the average time someone used to hold a share of stock back in 60s was 8 years. 8 years somebody has a stock in the, you know what is now? Now the average time is 4 months. They are not owners. They are betting on companies. And when you are moving your shares from Facebook to Amazon, it's not yours. It's where is ownership of the company? Which means in this moment, I'm not talking about planet that we are industry polluting their land, their fishes. Which means this data shows that we are at the moment really most of our businesses are not conscious. Some of businesses are trying to be. We have most of businesses still has measurement of success, and one of the things how really we can change to implement different measurement of success. Current strongest measurements of success and on value of the company, it's really to it's a profit, but there are some companies that says that there is a triple bottom lines, like a people, planet, and I would add fourth one, partners, which means we have to have a triple or what I say, the fourth bottom lines, how we improve our profit and shareholder lives, but also how we improve and create value for people, for planet, for future generations, and for all our partners. Conscious companies don't try to matter by winning. Conscious companies, they win by mattering. And for me, like my friend and guru Richard Barrett says, business is the strongest institution in the world, but they didn't used to have responsibility for all. They had only responsibility for their shareholders, even now for only customers, employees. But business has to get a much, much bigger role, and it's a leader's role to care about all peoples and also the future generation. That's a short one.
Thank you, Miša. And Dušan, what can you say? Exit was supposed to celebrate the 20th birthday this year in COVID situation, yes?
Yes, actually we managed to start celebration of 20th anniversary with our with our live stream project that combined our social mission that is connected with how Exit started as a social, as a youth movement for peace and democracy in Serbia. So the live stream is our biggest environmental project so far, but it's also a festival as well. It's something that we planned for our 20th anniversary, and we managed to start this project. It's actually broadcasting previews and this weekend where one of the world leaders in electronic music performed live at our fortress in Novi Sad, Petrovaradin Fortress, and played in front of 500 people. But the main aim was to broadcast to millions of people worldwide and to send a message about environmental disaster that is happening as we speak, and also the hunger crisis that because of the pandemic almost 300 million of people is in danger of severe hunger, almost dying or because of the lack of the food this year. And we did this in partnership with the world's largest humanitarian organization, it's United Nations World Food Program. But let me say something about the question you asked about conscious business. I think this is the crucial question at this moment, because when we speak about environmental disaster and when we speak about everything bad that is happening in the world, it's often linked to the human greed. When we speak about wars, when we speak about all type of destruction, is always connected to the human greed, and human greed for money in the first place, and then everything else that money buy. And I think it is naive to expect that we can change people's behavior in a short period of time in order to resolve all of these crises, and in order to basically also save the planet and life on the planet. My belief is that we need to transform how business is oriented, and that business will always be about most of the business, of course, will always be about making money. Basically, investment funds can't do anything else than have in their agenda to make money, because if they don't do that, probably the people who are responsible there will be fired. But what we can do, and that is one of the aims that we want to promote, is to change the behavior of the customers. If we manage to do this, and Mohammed spoke about Generation Z, and if we manage to do this, if we manage to promote to these new generations that saving the environment is the crucial thing, that other good deeds are the crucial thing how the businesses should conduct, and if these things becomes profitable, then this shift will be much quicker. Of course, the best way is for the businesses to evolve, the people who run businesses to evolve, and for us to live in a utopian society. That's ideal dream, but we don't have that time. When the planet is concerned, most of the scientists now believe that we have most few decades before the climate change and everything else becomes irreversible. And many believes that in a few decades our planet can even become inhabitable. And a few days ago there was I think there was a clock set up, I think in New York or somewhere in US, with measuring time, how many years we have, because before the things become irreversible. So what we need to do is to educate customers, people, and the businesses see them as the customers, to educate people and to educate and to direct them, and what Mohammed said, to demand from their favorite brands and to demand from the businesses to behave responsible to their environment and to the societies. And we need also the standards. We need the standards that will be reliable, because it's not enough when some business say, okay, we are behaving responsible. Usually this is just a marketing floscle. We need measurable and reliable standards that businesses will have to earn in order to say, okay, we are environmentally responsible. We are responsible in terms of not exploiting youth or not or having the gender balance and everything else. And if we start developing this as business societies, NGOs, governments as well, I think this is the way that things can change. I will also give an example. For instance, in terms of tourism business, which is connected to our festival business as well, most of the standards in previous century was, where if you want to have the luxury resort, you will build big luxury hotels of 5, 6, 7, 8 stars, which will be full of metal, concrete, and other artificial stuff. Having in mind how we are destroying the nature, and that nature, the real nature will be less and less in the future, the most expensive vacation in few years already will be actually to stay in perfect, untouched, unspoiled nature. So when some hotel group acquires some amazing nature place, for them in future will be more profitable to sustain that nature and to keep it and to make the accommodations as much as possible in harmony with nature, because this will be something that people will demand and that will be ready, as Mohammed said, to pay a premium for something like that. And we need to have in mind that the future, we are developing so fast in not a good way, and spreading so fast that some of the things that we are used to will not happen in the future. For instance, my grandfather used to drink and make fish paprikas from the water from Danube. And we know now that you cannot even swim in the Danube, how it's polluted. For future generation, this may be for the seas and oceans, having in mind the speed how we are destroying the whole planet. So this is something that we have to have in mind. And as I said, for me, the conscious business is the fastest way that real shift can happen, but only if we manage to spread the message to the people and to manage to realize these standards I was talking about in order for them to know exactly who are the brands that are sharing the values that new generations have.
Yes. Well, I'm now representing the leading business media in Serbia, so I have to defend the business sector at this moment, because I think that this year, when everything stopped all over the world, and we didn't know what was going to happen and where are we going to end in 2 weeks or a month, we were all sure that one thing cannot stop, and that was the economy and business. So the only thing that people felt safe, being healthy, of course, but having their jobs and feeling safe with their companies. So I think it is really important to know that what Miša said, the role and the strength of business sector is really important all over the world. If you don't have a healthy economy and leaders who see further and longer in the future, nothing can happen. Now business is something that is growing, and we need to change it in some way. So for Mohammed, my second question is, what is Visa doing to change and to make some improvement in society you're working in? And of course, Miša will have some different answers on what is about designing business in these different times important now. So let's think out of the box and maybe more artistic on what is actually the strength of the business sector, and not only the bad things that are happening in business. Okay, please.
Well, thank you. I'll leave the creativeness to Dušan. I'm sure he will come and wow us with something different. I think one of the things that this pandemic has taught us is, this is the biggest challenge any of us have ever faced in our lives, right? It's clearly the biggest challenge of the 21st century. And amongst all of the negativity, there's a huge amount of good that we've discovered. Humankind is actually pretty nice, and we've responded well. I think going back to something that Dušan said is we have a role to play and corporates have a role to play, but as long as it's sustained, people are just leveraging and this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is people who've leveraged this pandemic to get a quick buck or to get quick brand awareness. That for me is something that I have no respect for whatsoever. Organizations that have seen this and recognize that they actually have a role to play, absolutely important. You asked about Visa. Let me step back actually and just talk about what our brand purpose is, because I think it will help you understand why we've done what we've done and why we're going there. I mean, as a business, we believe at Visa that economies that uplift and include everyone everywhere, so the concept of inclusion, will uplift everyone everywhere. For 60 years, our legacy has been commitment to individuals and businesses to help them thrive. The concept of they thrive, in so doing, they also help the communities that they live in thrive as well. This is at a sort of very broad level, and that's the foundation of Visa, right? That's our brand purpose, and that's just the legacy of where we've been. For this year in particular, pretty much as a response to what we've seen, there have been 3 areas that we've focused on. One I'll call financial inclusion. That's looking at the financially underserved, underbanked, or completely unbanked. That's one group. Secondly, and one of the biggest areas that I think many companies have looked at, is the response to the small and micro businesses around the world and in the communities that we live in. And I'll talk about that in a second. And lastly, we've for a while actually have really focused on this, but very much this year is empowerment of women and looking to bridge some of the challenges that they face in a working environment and overall, but particularly now with all of the challenges that every organization is facing. So if you happen to go back to the first one, financial inclusion, 2 to 3 years ago, we as a business committed, before the crisis, committed to helping shift something in the range, connecting 500 million people to digital solutions, digital payment solutions. These are people who only paid in cash and had no way of engaging in a whole economy that existed outside of their world. So over the last 3 years, and I'm really pleased to say that we've actually hit that target, and we have brought in 500 million people around the world into a digital economy, which has opened up a huge range of doors for them to be able to engage in ways that they couldn't do before. Really proud of the fact that of those 500 million, 54% of them were women. When you look at small to micro businesses around the world, this is the foundations of our economy. These are the foundations of the communities that we live in. They are brought together by women. We'll talk about some of the issues they face, but I was so pleased to see that women stood up and took value from what we were doing and actually took it upon themselves. What we're doing today is we're shifting our focus. We've now helped 500 million people enter the digital space. Where do they go? They're not shopping in the Carrefours and the Giants and the Walmarts of the world. They're shopping at the stall at the end of their road. They're shopping at the little corner shop around the corner from their house. And these are individuals that didn't necessarily have the ability to be able to pay in a digital world. So our shift has gone from people to these small and micro businesses. And we have set ourselves a target of digitally enabling 50 million new small and micro businesses to enter the digital payment space over the next 3 years. 5 million of those actually sit in my region, which is Central Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So that really is from a financial inclusion perspective. From a small to micro businesses, a lot has been talked about this group. But why? They are 90% of all businesses around the world. And they are the group that have had, well, they've suffered the most during this this pandemic. They have not, whilst they're 90% of the business, they do not have access to the resources that their bigger partners, their bigger competitors have. So they don't have access to funding, training, technology. And this is really what held them back. And we as a business, our foundation has committed $200 million to actually helping these small businesses reach those resources. one of the things we've already done is we've launched around the world knowledge hubs, we've called them, where businesses that don't necessarily have access to information and learning and technology can go. We have 12 of those digital hubs in our region already live, where they can go for tips on digital transformation, digital marketing, how to connect with consumers, the basics of business administration, helping them survive in today's environment. And then lastly, we obviously partner with like-minded organizations like ourselves to help expand that. We're here for a reason. We've been partners with Exit for a while. And with the foundation now, it's incredibly proud of what we can come and do together. This is a small part of what we're doing. And obviously I look forward to the strength of what, you know, Dušan and the team and Visa will be able to do, because it's partnering. It's not a us versus them. Organizations like ourselves need to come together because that's when together we actually benefit ourselves, but we benefit the communities that we're in. And my last point really is on female empowerment, and it's the, you know, we are committed to addressing the challenges that women face day in, day out, particularly in the work environment, particularly as women owners of business. We want to create a more inclusive, connected digital economy that includes everyone. Again, this is, you know, not just for men. It is we said most of these smaller businesses are owned by women, but no one is paying attention to them in the way they should do. So how do we do that? Well, we lead by example, first and foremost. So as an organization, we have, and I can say that 100% pay parity globally. Every single office, every single employee, male or female, paid the same. Of the 15 largest markets we have in the world, the 15 largest markets, 6 of those 15 are run by women. Of our 12 global businesses, the business functions, 50% are run by women. And I won't go too far away. In my team alone, of my 4 regions, every one of those regions is led by a woman. 75% of my leadership team is women. Right, so we couldn't go out to the market and preach this if we weren't actually doing it in-house as well, right? And one of the things I'm actually very, very proud of, you know, I'm proud of many things about Visa, but that's one of the things that I truly appreciate. Outside of the organization, we use our brand, our network to empower women, particularly female entrepreneurs, right? Because why? Today, and I hate to say this, but there's a $1.5 trillion gap between the financing male entrepreneurs get to female entrepreneurs. But I shouldn't have said any of this to you. I shouldn't have been talking about what we do at Visa. You know, there shouldn't be a wow moment to say that 50% of our leaders are women. That's insane. I'm glad that I can say it. It's really unfortunate that I have to say it, though. And one of the ways that we're doing this is through programs that we've designed to help women help women, but men have a role to play to also connect up to help our women colleagues and our partners. One of those is a program that we've launched globally called She's Next. It's powered by Visa. It's one of our biggest programs, and it's a global incentive program designed to champion women entrepreneurs and help them run their businesses from growth to growth. And to be, you know, for that, just timing-wise is amazing. We actually have one of those programs running live right now in the Middle East and North Africa region. And if anyone had signed up yesterday, I believe the actress Jessica Alba was actually one of our speakers on there. So if you're interested, it's there. Please do go online and check it out. But those are the 3 core areas that we are focusing on as a response to everything that you've seen so far.
Okay, thank you. Miša, we all know you as someone who's thinking more artistic about business and thinking more in design business to make strategy something that is more in the mind than in the profit and in the Excel. So there is this very, very interesting concept of business sapiens. that is close to conscious business, and I'm hoping that you can maybe explain us more what it is and how is it going to improve business thinking and strategy in the world or in Serbia at the moment.
I hope in the world also. Our name, like you said, it's a new strategy, not strategy, it's a strategy. And it's a new start. I think that everybody has now, it's a totally fourth industrial revolution, and every company has to have a new start. The second thing, it's interesting that in our name, strategy, it's art inside. In a strategy, it's a rat, it's a Serbian war, and which means we are changing the war for art, and we think that now in this 21st century art in business is necessary. And we have in our name also edgy, which means we have to be bold, and yes, we developed. I was impressed by business model canvas, a long time ago, even more than 10 years, 15 years, more than 10 years ago. And but after that, myself and my partner, Dejan Bojović, we developed a new business model, and it's named Business Sapiens. And like name says, it's a analogy from Homo sapiens, and which means it's a humanized business. And we believe that organizations are living systems. And when you think and treat organizations as a living system, is totally different than if you treat them as a mechanics. If you talk about the business, most of the words when used, it's that business is a mechanic. And in this case, it's like a performance, etc. Even when we are talking about customers, it's a target, we have to catch them. They are totally, when you are thinking about the companies as a living system, it's a totally different. It's a not transactional, it's a relational. And relational systems are in nature, they're creative. Relational systems are intelligent. And if you treat them like this, they become like this. And our Business Sapiens model has 4 dimensions, like people. Like if 4 of us form the company, each of us and all religion accepted that humans has 4 dimensions: physical dimensions, emotional, mental, and spiritual. What happened with these dimensions if we are together? And most of the businesses treat only business as a 2-dimensional. In the beginning only as a physical, after that as a cognitive or mental, how to do it. But where is emotional? Where is spiritual? Business Sapiens think that business has emotional dimension, that business has also spiritual dimension. And this is the really formed in our Business Sapiens. I don't have time now, and it's not made to show you our Business Sapiens model. I hope that I will have chance next time to talk more about it. But what is also more important, that about the culture. Everybody is talking about the culture. That culture, it's a strategy for breakfast. But most of us are talking only about culture of employees. But where is the problem? When culture of shareholders, employees, customers, suppliers are different. And we here in our Business Sapiens treat the share culture for shareholders, which means investors, customers, employees, suppliers. And in this case, it will not be problem between investors because they will share same values. If you have a long-term company, in this case, you will have employees also who is thinking like this. You will have investors who are thinking like this, and making the group of the people as a living organism. This is for us very important. And business. And what is also important, that who will win in the future? Not somebody who has the currently best product or best process or best technology, because it's changing anyway. Who has the best stakeholders, who has the stakeholder, like an investor, who is the better team, who has the stakeholders that can go through this crisis together, that shareholders are not taking in one side and customers on other side. And in the future, I agree with Dušan. It's very important that at least first customers understand that, and to avoid and recognize conscious business. And I think that when customer realize that it's more important from whom you buy than what you buy, we will win. And when employees recognize that it's more important for whom you work than what is the money that you get 100 euros more, that is more important. And I think that this time is coming. I have so many things to say about Business Sapiens. I fell in love with Business Sapiens, and only the last thing, we introduced know-how. It's in the last century, know-how was differentiating point. There are companies who had the better know-how, they were more successful. In 21st century, know-how is a mandatory inclusion. Know-how, it's a difference, which means your greatness, what you have it, and you have to go to your greatness. And we have even product as a go strategy, like for our client. And this is like a go strategy, like orientation, of course, having in mind everything what we said, but also mean go, G means your greatness, and O means opportunity, which means to match your greatness and your opportunity. We even changed SWOT analysis. We are not using even strengths, because you have so many strengths. There's the one greatness, what you do have, and etc., etc. But I'm so happy that we are talking now, and that thanks to Visa and to Exit, we have a chance to say that also something from Serbia, that we are also adding to world with some new things, like, for example, Business Sapiens, new strategy. And one of our hope that we will, next office, we have office in Singapore, representation in Canada, but next office we were planning to have in Dubai, and I hope I will see Mohammed. Thank you.
Thank you, Miša. Dušan, you're a founder of Exit. So in 2 decades, what happened, and how did you manage to make from a festival a whole project, a whole new meaning of one little music festival that was happening 20 years ago? Now it's a brand, it's something that has a conscience, something that is dealing with all different problems, and something that made a huge change in our country and in the whole region. You actually, the cultural map, you changed it in like 5 years, and now it's bigger than anything that happened in last 20 years in Serbia. What was the concept, and did you know at the beginning where are you going to go, and what are you going to do now with it? You have this amazing project, and what to do with it now, especially in this year?
Thank you. So, I was 22 when we started Exit, and we obviously didn't plan. Okay, we didn't sit. We will going to develop the business that will be in the entertainment sector, and okay, we'll do the festival, and we want to create a brand. Of course, that was not the way how we did it. Firstly, our aim was back then to fight for freedom and democracy in Serbia and peace in Serbia and Balkans, as I mentioned, and we used the music as a tool in order to achieve and to motivate masses of young people to take part in the democratic processes that was happening 2 decades ago. And also, when the democratic changes happened, we wanted to make up for the lost decade in 90s, that in Serbia and Balkans for one of the worst decades in the history of this territory, with wars, isolation, and everything bad that is known. that was happening back then. Some of you may know that Serbia was part of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia in 80s was part of the Western culture. Despite it was the socialist country, it was part of the Western cultural sphere. We had MTV back then, while it was cool. We had the concerts, international concerts, and everything that was also running in the rest of the Western Europe. And when happened what happened in the 90s, and when all of this was cut off, basically people here knew what they were missing. We wanted to make up to our generation this lost decade, and that's why we started to create international music festivals. And having in mind that the poor economy back then and that people couldn't travel abroad, we wanted to bring the world to Serbia. And we managed to do this, and in any moment we were not thinking, okay, we are creating the brand, which turned afterwards into the love mark, which is the ultimate goal for any brand. And it's something that you can do when you are believing in the mission and in the dream that you want to realize, and basically creating the brand, the love mark of Exit was the consequence of what we were doing. And for your question, what now? What in the future? Our slogan for 20th anniversary was, and is still Exit 2.0. And with this, we wanted to highlight that we want to bring the whole festival and the whole message of Exit to another level. In recent decades, we ran the music festival and our foundation parallel. They were interconnected, but they had own teams, they had own projects, and what we want from now on is complete integration. And that is what we managed to do with the live stream. I'm very proud for that project, because this project managed to completely integrate the social mission of Exit Festival and the amazing musical vibe, because people come to the festival or watch video streams from the festivals. And with these environmental messages and other social important messages that are incorporated into the streams from the festival, basically we managed to do a complete integration of the social message and the amazing entertainment product that Exit is. We like this very much, and we are eager to see how this will grow and how this will develop, and how we can develop this in the future. And we are very happy that there are brands, global brands and companies like Visa. And this is not now because Mohammed is in this talk. I told them this to the local representatives of Visa when the COVID was in its first wave peak. Most of the companies that are sponsors of the festival, some said, okay, if we didn't have the contract with them, they said, okay, we can't go into contract now, everything is in crisis, of course. And this was understandable for most businesses. Some of our partners said, no, we are ready to fulfill the obligations we have towards you when you are ready to make the festival. So if you can't make the festival this year, you will make next year, and we will prolong cooperation for next year, which is also very good. But from Visa, there was another type of call, and the call was, okay, listen, guys, we know that you are in crisis, and we want you to think. We want to support you this year as well. Find a way, do something, find a way, and we will support you this year. And I was relatively shocked because, in my view, when you have the global brands, global corporations, their intention is to, especially in the times of crisis, to cut costs, to try to have, of course, biggest profits as possible. And I was surprised, and I saw this as a sign of change for the business in general, that you have the global brand that is responsible to his shareholders, and such must have profits and everything else, but who understands that behaving responsibly and consciously is actually the way to increase profit long term or middle term. I saw this as a sign of change, and I hope that other brands and other businesses will follow this practice as well, because this is profitable in let's say middle term at least, and it is something that will distinct brands of the future, and from the brands that will not understand. Then in the future, if you want to survive, you will have to be responsible. You will have to be. You will have to have the conscious about the environment, and this is something that some of the good things that this pandemic will bring is that it will distinct. I think like the internet era was distinction when we speak about how the things were before the internet and after the internet, or before mobile phones and after the mobile phones. I think this pandemic will also be one of the distinction marker that many businesses will have to evolve and will have to change in order to prosper in the future. And the ones who will try to stay in the same mind pattern as it was before the crisis, I don't think that these businesses will have success in the future.
Okay, thank you. And we have some few minutes left. The last question for all three of you is, I would like to hear advice from you to small and medium businesses for this year and for the future. What can you give them as advice, or some strategy where to go from here? Because I'm sure that this year was pretty hard for them. And maybe just a short message to the companies that are bigger and that are probably stronger, what to not to forget in this year and the years that are coming. But Dušan is already told us what he wants from business companies. Yeah. So just a short advice and maybe some message for large corporations.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'd like to add another element to it as well, because I think the message needs to go not only to the businesses, but to the consumers, right? Every one of us has a role to play. These are businesses that are fighting to stay afloat, right? They do not have the luxury of the financial backings like organizations like we have that will keep us afloat. So I think 43% of small businesses said they've got enough money to stay afloat for 6 months at the beginning of the pandemic, right? So they are dying right now. So the role of everyone is, you have a role to play. You have a role to play with the corner shop, the guy that brings you milk and bread. You know him, he's one of you, he's your neighbor, right? The way the barista who you get your coffee from every morning, you have a role to play. If we don't support these organizations, they won't be around. It's as simple as that. So don't just look at the business, big corporates to solve. Look in the mirror and say, what can you do every single day, right? One of the things that happened, 50% of all of these small to medium businesses have no online presence, right? That's where I'd focus on. Maybe one thing I would say is, all of a sudden, when the world started going into lockdown, they had no way of engaging with their consumer. They had no way of engaging with their suppliers. They suddenly saw their business come to a grinding halt. So where we are getting involved, as I said, is the hubs that we created around the world, where there's a vast amount of information on how to exist in the digital world, right? Consumers have changed the way they shop, the way they pay. People don't want to touch cash for a period of time, right? So if you're not able to accept digital payments, they won't come to you. So there is a paradigm shift that's happening right now, and that's the role that I think that if you're not present in the online space today, you should be, and that's a role that I'd love for us to be able to help with. And that's a very quick top line what I would recommend.
Thank you.
For me, I think that this is really big crisis, and it's a really big danger, probably the biggest for the small and medium enterprises. You know why? Because it's attack cash flow, and cash flow, it's oxygen. And for example, for small companies, this is really they have only 1 month, 2 months to live. Big companies, they have a fat. They have oxygen. They have a cash flow. They can stop doing some big research, marketing budgets, or cut paying suppliers, etc. And small companies really don't have it. They need help, and I agree totally with Mohammed. And for example, if a small company needs to get 10 kilos less, big companies can cut fat, and small companies has to cut the leg. And if they cut leg, it will not work in the future. And what I said as a partners, what Exit said, for bottom line partners, their success. This is here important, to take care of small and medium companies. And this is also for the big companies, but also for the government. What is my advice? It's first, really, everything change, problems. We as a small and medium companies are solving problems. There are a lot of problems now, and a problem change, and we are flexible, we are agile. Let's really not be fixed on everything what we were producing at the moment in service. Let's make agile. For the global companies, much more difficult. The second things, let's try to see the needs of your employees. They are not all material. Believe me, during the crisis, people remember much more and long term. Like 9/11, all remember the seat where we were sitting, and all crises in our life. Now, if you do something well for your employees, for your customer, even small for the big companies, call big company and say, what is the problem? Maybe we can solve. And third things, try to make build the ecosystem. Try to build the ecosystem where other small and medium companies, with other freelancers, are now, and try to convert problems of other small companies, freelancers or people, or even consumers. Try to put them in your ecosystem, and in this case, you will be more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Miša. Dušan, everything stopped, the exit stopped, and then this came. Conscious revolution like a platform. It's your answer for this crisis.
Yeah, basically we are making this, trying to do in this year a lot of different projects that we were wanted to do for years now, and didn't have time, basically, having in mind the expansion of the festivals we had in different countries. And my advice to small businesses or anybody wanted to start a business during this crisis is basically to believe in your dream. Sometimes when something is not going well and consistently not going well, sometimes that is a sign that maybe you need to shift something or change something, and that what you believe that is right is maybe not right. But usually, this is at least my experience, I had several moments in my life, and I wanted to say, okay, I quit, this is too much, and it's not possible to continue with so much problems handling in organization, in life. And every time this was a challenge. Every time this was a test. I believe this like a test from the universe. Let's say it like that. That after I said no, I will stick. I will go through. And every time the award came because sticking through the crisis. And we have in a Serbian expression, I'm not sure if it's the global, that the darkest is just before the sun starts coming up. And I believe that this crisis is as Mohammed said, we are now in 6 months, and it's getting darker for many businesses. But I strongly believe that sun will start coming up, and it always do. It's the law of the nature, and that just follow your dream, believe in it, and whatever obstacle is there, try to go through it, and the world will be at the end of that.
Thank you, Dušan. Thank you all. I think this was a great discussion. I want to thank Exit and Visa for giving me the opportunity to be part of this really interesting panel and project. And at the end, my advice for all small and medium businesses is to apply for workshops that are free of Richard Barrett. Miša mentioned him. He's a really great speaker, and I hope all people who want to work and are starting something new should listen these workshops in October and November. Thank you so much, and I hope I will see you next time in person, and maybe we'll have some lunch or dinner in Belgrade and talk about some different things. And we'll just remember this panel, like, oh, do you remember what happened in?
Having in mind that Mohammed is a fan of Exit and Dance Arena, I think we after the dinner we can hopefully next year we are going to have a drink at Dance Arena as well.
I've been looking forward to it for 1.5 years now, so fingers crossed.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You were great.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you. Great also. Bye.
Nice meeting you all. Bye.